Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. And first of all, my heartiest congratulations to CSR Box and especially Bhomik for organizing over a decade of such kind of, annual CSR and ESG summit. I would say it's a Mela, which is the India's, not only India's largest, which is Asia's largest. So I expect a round of applause for CSR Box and the Mr. Bhomik's team. And before that, I think Dr. Abhishek has already set up a tone and he has already said a lot about the topic. So what we are going to do is we are going to explore further how the impact can be measured by the different organization. So it's my absolute pleasure to be here today and moderating a discussion on this topic, beyond good intention, turning CSR efforts into measurable impact, which is very, very critical and very, very, I think, important topic as of now, not only for the boardrooms, but for the communities also, because now communities are so much, aware about the facts that organizations are doing CSR and what is their role into, developing the villages or maybe communities, maybe cities. So this is a very, very good topic. So as of you all know that businesses are increasingly expected to play a critical role in addressing the social, environmental challenges. But the question we are here to explore today goes beyond the intention. Already Dr. Abhishek has talked about intention, which is, I would say, the root of everything. So intention and goodwill. It is about the creating lasting, tangible impact and truly makes a difference in the society. Not just for the bottom line, but for the people, communities, and for the planet also. So today, we will explore through this panel discussion how to ensure the CSR effort goes beyond intention, discussing the strategies for measuring impacts, sustainable outcomes, meaningful stakeholder engagement. Our panelists, as you are already aware and deduce, they bring a lot of rich insight and practical examples and experience on how to make CSR not just a duty, but a driver of real change. So let's dive into the conversation and discover how we can transform our good intention into real world impact. So now the discussion would start. Hello, I'm audible to you, all of you? Okay. So I have already prepared some questions and very structured questions so that we can reach to some conclusion and meaningful discussion also. So my first question is going to be a very young professional in CSR who is having experience of 25 years, Ravi. So how does your organization define impact when it comes to CSR? So Ravi, over to you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for having me here for this session. I think it's really difficult for both the speakers as well as the participants, having a session after lunch. But then we'll try and level best to do justice with the discussion. So I think we're talking about impact. I'll go back to basics. What is impact? If you look at the dictionary meaning, you're talking about impression, creating impression. But when I look at it from the CSR perspective, I think what we are talking about is creating a difference in the life of people, So when we look at CSR, even Abhishek also touched upon a point that it's not like only 10 years or 11 years ever since this law came in, and then we started getting into, I think India is the only country in the world wherein we do have a mandate, which is a very big thing, At least the corporates have started taking it seriously in terms of, giving it back to the community. But coming to the point, I think when we look at the evolution, I mean, from profit, when you talk about the businesses, from profit, they got into the purpose, and now people are heading towards the sustainability aspects. So when we talk about sustainability, now how do we create an impact? So from my perspective, what is impact? And we want to create a win-win situation for the community as well as for the corporate. I think one key thing is we do look at the gap, I mean the need for the community. So community need gap assessment is very important. And if you kind of align that with the business objectives of the organization, I think that's a win-win situation for both, and that's how you've been able to. I'm not talking about the measurement. I'm saying let's first try to create the impact. So from my perspective, look at the need from the community, and then of course align with the bigger objective of the organization, business objective of the organization. That is how you can really create an impact. Now, I'll give you an example. I come from High Technology Engineering Group. It's a global multinational. We are there in about 160 countries across. And what we look at is when I look at our approach in terms of CSR, specifically the policy, if I look at the kind of framework we have created, I think one gentleman did ask one question. I was there in the previous discussion as well. He raised a very valid question. When you look at it, at least from my perspective, my organization, what we have done is we did the community need assessment, but then we looked at the sustainable goals of the organization. We looked at what exactly is mentioned in Schedule 7. We did look at UN Sustainable Goal 2030. Then we created a framework which has an alignment with our business objectives. That's how we created the CSR policy framework and approach what we have here. Now, I was given an example. We do have skill development is one of the area wherein we have a big focus because we are a high-tech engineering group. So a lot of programs we execute from skill development perspective across the country. But all our programs are not, I would say, run-of-the-mill program, the vocational programs. We have designed specific programs looking at the requirement from our sector or industry, I would say. I'll give you an example. Our machines are used in underground mines. So we are the technology providers. We are not the miners. But the machinery which is used in mining operation, so that's the kind of technology we provide. So we have designed programs which are really helping the youth get the skill developed on those specific sectors, segments, or the machinery, I would say. And there are very successful programs we have executed in the past, and we have tried to, one, of course, giving them an opportunity in terms of skill development, but helping them increasing their employability as well. So specific programs depending upon the requirement from the sector, and of course try to align it with the business objective. Yeah, thanks.
So thank you very much, Ravi, and I request all the panelists to stick to the time because it's taking like anything, and we are having a very less time, and the topic is such we can talk almost 3-4 hours on that. So now my next question, in fact, I was having a follow-up question for Ravi, but I'm going to ask at the end. So, and I request people at the backside if they can, keep the silence so that, people can be benefited through this discussion. So, Anisha, I'm going to ask you for MMT, how does MMT define impact when it comes to CSR?
Sure. Thank you so much. I think Make My Trip has a very different lens of looking at impact. We look at impact from the lens of a destination. So, being in the business of travel, tourism, we are cognizant of the fact that, while there are a lot of benefits of travel, right, in terms of economies, in terms of cultural exchange, knowledge exchange, trade, possibly one of the only downsides of travel would be the, ecological degradation that comes with it. And to work on the same, we work on destinations to build resilience and sustainability in the destinations. And we do this through, our work on climate action initiatives. A lot of plantation work happens, waste management work happens. We try to identify, high tourist influx destinations, which kind of struggle with issues of overcarriage. The floating population of the tourists outdoes the native population of many of these places. And, so there's intervention required in equipping them with these systems, etc. So that's one way. The other interesting statistic about our industry of travel and tourism is that, we also contribute to 8% of the world's GDP. 12 out of every 100 people you meet are probably employed in the travel and tourism sector. So we also want to look at it from a lens where, the potential of growth in this sector can actually reach the direct last mile beneficiaries. So we run a lot of community-based tourism projects. And these projects basically help empower the natives and the local people in these high tourist influx destinations to run, say, homestays, cafes, curate experiences that can help them engage with the tourists. We are also training them on digital and social media usage, photography, so they can create their own marketing assets and become self-reliant as a unit to be able to engage directly with the tourists and take this benefit of the tourism exchange. I'd like to end with a very special campaign we did recently, which kind of captures how destinations come at the heart of everything we do. And, over years, anytime anyone is traveling anywhere, we always kind of wish them a good journey, bon voyage, safe travel, and so on. But we personally feel that I think it's time that we start wishing our destinations well. We've been wishing people well for many, many years now. But if we don't wish our destinations well, they're not going to last. So to make the destinations thrive, now we only say travel, magar pyar se. So that's
Well
what I
said,
would do.
well said. And I think in this hall, nobody's, I'm very sure, there would be nobody who has not, took the benefit of MMT. So indirectly, she's promoting also. Next time you have to, you say, okay, Chandigarh, okay, bye, Chandigarh. It's okay. So this is very well said. In fact, I'm going to ask, I am going to ask a follow-up question like you said about the community-based tourism. So what kind of impact you have created? How long you have been doing it and what kind of impact you have created?
Sure. So I'll be very quick with the answer.
Yeah.
I understand.
Only 10
it's the-
seconds.
Yeah. So we did it in Ladakh. We, empowered a few locals to run homestays. These were at a much lower scale, and they, as our first project also, there was a lot of learnings for us. There was a lot of siloed operation. So we took a lot of feedback, a lot of learnings from this project. And 2 years back, we ventured into Uttarakhand. We are working with Tata Trust and Himuthan. We are running a community-based tourism project with over 22 homestays, one eco-cafe, the trails and treks that I was talking about, where the Garhwali women take you for these forest trails and tell you the stories of the forest, And if you talk about impact in terms of numbers, I'm not talking about the exposure and the confidence.
I'm talking in
that's
terms of,
already come in.
the first slide which Dr. Abhishek shown, the impact was a smile.
The smiles,
So
yeah.
I was just wondering what kind of, impact you created
Right.
while working in Ladakh.
So I'll talk more about Uttarakhand. And
Okay.
honestly, there's a lot of confidence that has inspired in people. We were initially quite hesitant because you don't know how tourists can be. I mean, someone might offer their home as a homestay, and you might have like a bunch of tourists from any city go and they want to party till late at night. They want loud blaring music and so on. So we spoke to like this really old lady in Uttarakhand, and this is Jadipani, very close to Mussoorie. And we asked her, I'm like, Auntie, will you be okay with this? Like, if tomorrow tourists come and do this, like, how would your family respond to this? Would you be fine with this? And she's like, Beta, hum to ab ja nahi sakte hain Delhi वगैरह. So let them come here. This is the exposure we are getting. So we realized the openness of the
Absolutely
community.
fantastic. I think she deserves a round of applause for this kind of initiative. Thank you. So now moving to Purvash. So Purvash, what are the key challenges and learnings when it comes to the measuring CSR impact? This is very, very critical and very, very, very deep thought must be having. I mean, what kind of challenge and learning when it comes to the measuring CSR impact?
Oh, so I get the grim question now. I think just for context setting, I have a pet peeve with people co-opting outputs, outcomes, impact. I think just with a small example, if you're doing an education program, the number of students that you touch is your outputs, so your immediate results of what you've done. Uh, the outcomes would be the measurable, reasonable change that would have happened. For example, improvement in their learning outcomes or improvement in their school attendance, so on and so forth. And impact is a very, very long-term, broad-based change attributable to the outcomes, right? So a student who's learned, who has a good social and emotional learning quotient would probably have better economic opportunities when he or she or they grow up, and they are likely to alleviate poverty in their own communities. So that's the impact per se. Uh, Challenges when it comes to impact is a very, very complex question. I think almost everyone in this room will agree a project without a needs assessment or a baseline is one of the biggest challenges. It's like a pain in the ass. Sorry, don't mind my language. You try and put a head and toe to it, but you can't do that. The moment you get to an endline status, you realize that, oh no, you don't have the basic indicators that you wanted to start off with. So how do you even get into articulation of outcomes per se? Forget about impact, right? Something very related, right? Short-termism, the prevalence of short-term nature of projects, one-off initiatives focused on either safe investments. CSR, as you know, since 2021, the whole ballgame has changed into utilization. Short-term projects give you utilization, they give you visibility. So building a school wall or distributing stuff is always easier. So a compliance-driven approach could always push folks to kind of do that. But if you look at a long-term project, even lack of some sort of standardized framework or a metric in terms of how you do monitoring and evaluation can sometimes pose a great challenge, wherein your activities, your outputs, your outcomes and impact don't speak to each other. And what it leads to is a lot of inconsistent reporting. Even for a similar program, between two locations, you'll not be able to benchmark impact of the same program across two locations per se. Data collection, right? Data collection, especially in far off remote places, it has been a persistent challenge, not for a decade, but for time memorial. And even the way data speaks to itself when it traverses the journey from field to a middle office to the CSR donor, wherein it might have been hand recorded on the field, then transcribed into an Excel because the donor asked for so and so. And then a lot of donors like myself have very, very fancy, lofty CSR dashboards that we love putting up for our senior management, right? So it kind of goes into those dashboard, and so much is lost in translation from point A to point C that you can't get into granularity of data, you can't get into verification of data per se. And I think all of this kind of posits a larger question on the capacity constraints of non-profits that we work with, right? NGOs are kind of overworked when it comes to the monitoring and evaluation requirements of a lot of non-profits. There is a lot of data, documents, templates which are being sought. But the investment which is being made currently in terms of capacity building, in terms of offering training, resources, in terms of kind of keeping non-profit partners up to date, I don't think it's commensurate to the kind of expectation that is out there. In fact, when you go out evaluating a CSR project, what are the costs that you first chomp off, right? Human resources, non-programmatic expenses, and so on and so forth. So I think data is a huge challenge on that front, simply because NGOs are not equipped to do so. Forget about AI, forget about advanced analytics, forget about Power BI. I'm not sure if there are NGOs in the room, how many of you would you agree that you've mastered the art of making a pivot table and mastered the art of running a what if, what is it called? VLOOKUP, right? Yeah, I've also forgotten. Huh? So running a VLOOKUP in a huge data set, right? I think I'll rest my point by speaking macroscopically. Ultimately, social problems are very complex problems, right? And as corporate social responsibility partners, we are trying to address some part of these problems. But impact, as I said initially, is a broad-based long-term change. And how much of it can you attribute to what you've done? And how much of what you've done can you say is the cause of impact remains a challenge, right? So that kind of is something that we still have to go and evaluate.
Thank you very much, Purvash. You have given a lot of insight. I just want to add one more thing because a lot of NGOs are working with the corporates and the expectation of corporates is too much. Like Purvash has just said, so expectation. So we have to also, as a corporate, we are having some management quality and we are having equipped with the system also. So we have to also provide hand-holding to the NGOs also or CSOs who are working with us. So I think they are the, I would say for any corporates, they are the main vehicle, they are the engine of, driving entire things. Although corporates are doing CSR at their own, but I think no corporates are there who has not engaged with at least one NGO, so we have to provide the hand-holding. So I also consider as one of the learning because over the decades I have worked with the NGOs also, and there was a gap. So we have been trying to fill that gap with the, our management input. So thank you very much, Purvesh. Now I think I'm moving to Dr. Abhishek. He's having a, vast experience in CSR, ESG, and philanthropy. So Dr. Abhishek, I think audience would like to know about what kind of tools are available for monitoring and measuring the effectiveness of the CSR. So kindly elaborate what kind of tool is suitable for the industry or maybe for the NGOs also for the larger audience. Yeah, Dr. Abhishek.
See, so I think again I will share just one thing. There are two ways of measuring impact. One is definitely we miss on a very larger piece, which is qualitative impact. So let's focus on measuring qualitative impact, and there are various tools we have. We know there is a direct story capturing. There is a video testimonials. You can do a FGD with the community. You can do IDIs with the communities. There are so many technological tools available. There's just so many methodology available. And wherever you want to use technology, definitely you can use, capturing the direct voices of the beneficiaries through various methods. There are ways. There are a lot of technology coming in. But the second piece, which is the quantitative, there are options available to us. There's so many software, so many applications available to capture live data. But I will still not say that it's an impact that you are capturing. You are capturing the outputs, that's it, not even the outcomes. So now the entire monitoring and evaluation team, if the corporates have, or if they want to outsource to any third party, they can do that, but they have to take that entire data sets to do a very strong analytics around it and get the impact published around it. And you have to guide them. What is the thought process when you actually started your project? Sometimes you don't have a thought process also, honestly. This last slide that I showed about boat parking facility, we thought like it's a very simple project. We are just creating because they are having a problem. But when we saw the impact and we captured stories, it was very, very different. So sometimes the structured way of, like Ravi mentioned, how there's a way of doing top-down also. You just first decide your framework, move around it, but there's another way of doing it that you first do it and then see over a period of time how your impact going to be positioned. That is something, that's another. Now coming to very specific on certain tools, like for example, we are using specific tools for water measurement. We are doing very specific tools on our various assets management, how we are creating water state structures or tree plantation. There's a drone image, there's a pre-post satellite images, all these tools, all these technology we are using, and we are also using AI to show, okay, for last, there's a data set available for last 20 years in a particular location. We have done a very large scale afforestation. What will be the impact 10 years down the line with this? How the trees will grow, what kind of carbon sequestration, that everything we are capturing, and I'm sure a lot of other corporates also doing.
Even by adding this AI, we can also know
Yes.
that what kind of ecosystem
Correct.
would be there, and
Because
what
we
kind
are
of flora and
also-
fauna would come up.
Yeah, we are also designing our program basis the AI tools, looking at, okay, if we are creating a watershed structure here, what will be the rainfall pattern? Is it going to be the best program? We are recently in one of the place, we are converting the entire forest. It's 450 hectare of forest that we are developing. It's not just a forest, basically a biodiversity enhancement. Water is there, there's a rain gun we are using, there's a drone images we are capturing right now. We are also analyzing the data of the past and also using AI to look at the future. So these are certain options available, but I would suggest let's keep it very simple also sometimes. Let's keep it very simple at the community level, then go to a different level, various stakeholders, then finally at the board level. Don't make it very complicated, and it's not very difficult thing actually. But we really, everybody is scared about the moment the board meeting comes, kaise show karenge impact. I have 20 board meetings lined up from Monday till just one day before Diwali. And now our presentations are over, we are just going to present it.
So lot of fireworks is going to happen in board meeting also.
So this is a board meeting time, I'm sure, but let's not be scared of that. How are we going to capture impact? How are we going to show impact? As per the gravity, as per the maturity level of the stakeholder, the community, the project, you can easily do that. That's what.
So my follow-up question to you only, like what I think a lot of recognized reporting system are there, like GRI, SRI, a balances scorecard. Many there, I mean ISO 14,000 is also, ISO 24,000 is also there. So how this kind of tools are going to help or enhancing your reputation or creating a CSR transparency, and how I think I'm just going to add one more thing, how NGOs are going to help in this process?
No, I think it's a great question and very, very relevant question, because what we have also seen, these tools helps us enhances your transparency. Why? Because these tools requires whatever you say should be in the public domain. So you just can't keep it with yourself. So if you have to keep anything in the public domain, for example, in the GRI, they are asking about having a segregated data of the indigenous population, of the caste-wise and gender-wise, so then now you have to capture data accordingly. Secondly, they talk about how do you manage your stakeholders. So there is a stakeholders policy needs to be in place, and your stakeholders management process should be very well structured in the public domain. So that also helps us, keeps you. Then the second thing is about how do you show your impact. So these stories we can capture, but when it comes to in the public domain, then you have to publish. You have to also show your database. So definitely these tools are helping a lot. One of the important piece which has come in is grievance redressal mechanism. Lot of tools, lot of Dow Jones Sustainability Index, your GRI tools, they ask about how are you handling grievances of the community. Not the grievances related to the business, but grievances related to the CSR. So there, now you need to have a very structured process of first capturing grievances, then addressing grievances, what are the action taken, everything needs to be documented. So yes, because these tools are really helpful in making your entire process very structured.
Yeah, if time permits, I'm going to ask a similar question at the end. So now I'm moving to Purvash. And Purvash, how can companies effectively engage external stakeholders, especially NGOs, local community, PRI, to enhance their CSR effort and to address the real need of the community? Because most of the time what is happening, companies are, doing the need assessment survey, the sample size is very less, and they are able to, formulate something which is not suiting to all the people, and they are eventually they are going to have some kind of resentment. So how effectively we can, rope in NGOs and all the stakeholders? I am, looking for like multi-stakeholder CSR planning and execution.
I think at the first level, with 10 years of the law, almost 20, 25 years of social responsibility, we ought to now start considering communities and NGOs as internal stakeholders, not external stakeholders anymore. Very few companies in the landscape have the capability or the core domain expertise to implement without nonprofits. I think we covered that. You covered the shortfalls of a needs assessment, but I'll still say that at least start off with a needs assessment.
I agree with it.
If you can't do a detailed community profiling, do a dipstick profiling. At the planning stage, make sure that you have some kind of participatory stakeholder involvement. In the social work schools, we've all read of PRAs, RRAs, participatory livelihood planning and all that. A lot of effort has been spent on those activities. Use those. Co-engage communities when you're designing objectives of your programs, especially at the planning stage. Make sure that they feel that they are a part of the decision-making process. So there is some kind of ownership right at the beginning, right? A lot of companies in the recent times, they've introduced a concept of leverage, right? What kind of community contributions can they rope in right at the start? Not necessarily monetary contributions, but also in-kind contributions in form of shramdan or in form of number of days that they can dedicate to understanding the project as well. I think these are quite a few good best practices. When there is direct monetary involvement, obviously there is a direct kind of an aspect of ownership that comes in when the implementation starts. Apart from this, I think you've got to make sure that there is some kind of convergence with the local government schemes that are running there. You have to make sure that your initiatives or whatever you're trying to do is somehow converging into whatever the landscape is catering to, right? Otherwise, it will stand out in isolation and you will kind of stand at the risk of seeing as someone apart from what everybody else is trying to do there. The other points that I can think about this is, again, invest in institutional capacity building. Invest in building the capacity through training resources of non-profits that you're working with in the landscape. Invest in creation of institutions which are directly linked to your projects. Invest in kind of preparing community members to what you're trying, to educate them and what you're trying to do, but also own that, own those aspects of implementation, so that you're able to sustain those at least outputs or outcomes long after you've exited. Apart from that, I think make sure that you have some kind of communication and feedback loop going on. I've worked for an MNC before, and we had a very good practice of publishing Aapka report card in our geographies that we worked with. And this was a quarterly exercise where we went out in communities, we kind of spoke about what the programs, be it our education scholarship programs or our watershed management programs, have been able to achieve in that particular thing. It really goes a long way in kind of letting communities know what is being done for them, and making sure that you reach out to all subgroups within the communities when you do so, right? You shouldn't necessarily align with the power structures that are present in the communities. You should also go beyond those power structures, go deep with the community.
Very important point. Very important point. So I think just what is happening in CSR also, in fact, things are starting from boardroom. I think most of you will agree. But the point Purvash has made, like we have to engage with the community also. We have to understand on year-to-year basis, we have to understand what is the need of the community, and need is changing very fast. Even we have to see from the perspective of the government, and we can align with the government scheme also, so the amplification can be restored also. There are a lot of government schemes where you can dovetail, and those amplification will eventually benefit your organization. So Purvash has made a very pertinent and very good point. So I'm moving to Anisha, and the question is almost similar, Anisha. Like, can you provide by some example, like successful multi-stakeholder partnership and how they have led to measurable social impact? So I'm especially looking for the multi-stakeholder partnership, not only engaging NGOs, but all the stakeholders, yeah.
Great. So I think, yeah, Purvash made some really, interesting points. And I'm going to dive directly into, just talking and running you guys through an example of one of our projects. So we've been working in Kempty Falls, which is near Missouri, on a waste management project. And, this journey started 2 years back. And for those of you who are not familiar with Kempty Falls, so this is in Uttarakhand, it's hilly. So there's a motorable road around 4-5 kilometer stretch where the cars can go. And then there are around 300 steps that you have to climb down to reach the actual waterfall. And these 300 steps also have, like, those small eateries and, those typical hillside games, balloons and guns, and other, small shops, gift items and all, through the steps. So the first thing that we did when we wanted to work on the waste management issue here was to identify who are the different stakeholders. And, all of this ties back to what Purvash was just, kind of talking us, walking us through. So we try to understand who are the current stakeholders, what are the challenges they are facing right now. How can we devise a solution which would not only solve the problem, but would also come with, an exit strategy, would come with the ownership going back to the community eventually. And so we identified that, okay, the Zilla Panchayat has a contractor on board who collects the waste from the motorable road. But there is no access, there is no waste collection happening on the steps. There are no households being touched for this. There are around 1,000 households, 2 panchayats, and around 500 commercial establishments on this entire patch. So then we had to kind of backtrack. We had to not hurt sentiments, but also enter the area. So we said, okay, maybe the steps is a good point to start at. There's a lot of manual work involved, but it's okay, we'll do that. Also, along with that, there was a material recovery facility, which is like a dry waste, segregation center for waste. And but that was not really operational. It was just being used to dump the waste. So the contractor would collect the waste, dump it there, and that was it. So we said, okay, so we are going to start collection on the steps, and by the side, liaise with the government to let us operate the recovery facility. So we put in our green workers there, they started sorting, even the contractor started putting his waste there, and that waste also started getting sorted. So we made some visible impact there. Then we, as step 2, entered the villages, and we started household collection. Long story short, we did a couple of things back to back, right from initiating a user fee from commercial establishments to build an ownership, to targeting some legacy waste spots, or as they call the dark spots, when it comes to these locations, and really transforming them to show visible impact, getting shop owners to segregate at source, which was a huge task. But I really wish it was as simple as it just sounded when I said this, but it's a huge task, and really institutionalizing all these things. And again, like I said, long story short, the final outcome of where we are today, the contractor is nowhere in the picture now. The Zilla Panchayat is signing an MOU with our NGO to take the full ownership of waste management in that area, right from collection to processing. But their contract value is not enough to cover the entire cost. So as an exit strategy after 2 years, Make My Trip Foundation is slowly going to move towards just the gap funding, which is eventually going to minimize. And the project is going to be back with the community.
Very interesting. I think I agree with one very important point which she made. Like, nothing should come free, so user charges was there, because most of the time we have seen that if you are providing anything free to the community, they are not valuing it. So this is my request. This is based on my personal experience. I may be wrong also. I think there should be some nominal fee to be imposed to the community, or wherever it is needed. Not everywhere. Like, this is waste management is a very good example she has given. So now I'm moving to Ravi. He is silent since long. So I mean, this is a very, very important question for the benefit of the audience, because nowadays what is happening, many corporates are, planning for long-term projects. Some corporates are planning for short-term projects. So what is your take, Ravi? What are the benefits of long-term projects in creating impact to all stakeholders in comparison to the short-term or maybe 1 year project? Yeah.
Thanks. I think I know the time is up, but good that the
Yeah,
screen
Adesh
was.
has to give 5 more minutes to me.
Yeah.
As a moderator, it is a very difficult job for, keeping time up and see a red thing is flashing up. So, Adesh, please give me 5 more minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
continue.
in fact, I was happy when the screen was blank so that I get some time to speak. Anyways, I think thank you very much for putting up this question to me. In fact, it resonates well with my thought process because when we talk about the programs, innovation people talk about, which is, I would say, the vaguely used word. We are not doing any innovation, we are not into the research and all, but when we are looking at creating an impact on the community, when we are looking at creating that difference on the community, I think let's look at the programs or the interventions with a difference. And that is how we'll be able to create that difference in the community. Having said that, I think what we look at is when we have to choose the programs. I'll give you a very simple example, related to, I think people sitting over here in this ballroom, they can relate to easily. Stock market, I'm sure most of us are investing. So there is a difference in the trader and investor. So if you are a trader, I mean, you will look at short-term gains, but end of the day, you will be losing money. So there are examples wherein people are losing money if they are the traders. If you really want to create wealth, I think you should look at a long-term perspective, become a long-term investor. That's how you'll be able to create that wealth. And at the same time, when we talk about these programs, if we really want to create an impact on the community, I think we shall stick to the programs from the longer time perspective. Otherwise, I mean, if you do it in piecemeal, I think one more thing I would add here is not just the long-term perspective. I think we should look at the programs in a holistic manner, not in the piecemeal perspective. I'll give you an example. Like we've been doing a lot of work on education front. A lot of interventions are on the school level, pre-primary, primary, upper primary schools. I mean, we just completed one program in Telangana with 35 schools, and we are doing one program in Pune. Now, our objective was to look at, promoting digital education in schools. Though the objective was connected to our, thought process of promoting digital education, but when we looked at the schools, we did the holistic development. It's not just all the classrooms. They were actually upgraded with smart classrooms. 100% classrooms in all the schools wherever we did the intervention, they were with smart boards, and that too with 7 years of, agreement with our education, smart education provider. So it's not like you just do the intervention, come out of it. You did give the infrastructure, you came out of it, and after that, 6 months down the line, you realize not even a single smart board is working. So we are there in that program, at least for 3 years, and then making sure that even the contract with our education partner is for 7 years. That's one part. In addition to this, when I was talking about the holistic approach, we did the transformation of the schools in a complete manner, whether it was setting up the STEM labs, whether it was setting up the libraries, giving them the wash facility, gender-specific toilets, hand wash stations, drinking water facilities, sports facilities, and a lot of, development activities even for the teachers and staff as well. So if you really want to create a difference, I think that's the key. Look at the long-term perspective. That's how you'll be able to create that wealth and create an impact, and definitely with a holistic manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you. And I'm going to ask very similar question to Dr. Abhishek also, because as a CSR professional, as a CSR head, you all must be, facing challenges. Many times board is saying that you have to formulate a 1 year CSR project or 2 year, and they are not, sticking to the long-term CSR project. So how do you manage and how do you convince your board? There's an insight, and how you marry the entire thing with the expectation of the community.
So I think there's no doubt about it, and all our panel speakers talked about definitely long-term programs. There's no short-term in this. There are short-terms, one-off cases we have to do as a being the manufacturing setup, considering the local, immediate local area demand. But that's very short, very, very small portfolio. But entire, uh, the entire portfolio is around long-term. And all these components of leverage, community participation, institution, and having a very structured, impact-oriented projects. This is the approach that we take, whether it's, we don't take anything on our hand. In fact, some of the cases, the water projects, we built 3 structures. The 7 structures came directly from the community, from their participation. The Gram Panchayat, the Sarpanch getting excited about it. So we are, in fact, I'll just, in 2 seconds, I'll tell you how we make our budget also. In the budget also, we have 3, in fact, 4 columns. One is the total budget. The second is Adani Foundation's contribution. We use contribution, though it's a budget. Then the community, and then the leverage. So there are 4 columns around it. So we do, and linking with the government schemes is one of the flagship projects that we have. We call it Meri Sangni, Meri Margdarshika, where we work directly with the community through a volunteer, and they help converge with the government schemes. Till date, we have been able to unlock close to 300 crores rupees of worth of schemes. It's an unlock, and the direct realization is around 27 crores, which is in the bank account of the community. So that's the model that we adopt. So, because definitely, this is the approach, and this is the structured CSR Act also is talking about it. Board also expects long term, but yes, impact they ask, show impact in 1 year, which is not possible.
Which is not possible.
Not at all possible. So we specifically tell the board that though the Act says impact, but it is not impact assessment. It is clear either an output assessment or an outcome assessment.
Outcome, yeah.
Maximum.
So the final take, I would like to sum up, like impact is, and measuring impact is also important, and creating impact is very, very important, because if anything you are conceptualizing at this stage of, after the need assessment, if you are not having impact in your vision, that CSR, from my perspective and from the panel perspective, it is not a good sign of, implementation of CSR. So impact is very, very important, and entire panel is thrown, with the limitation of time, they have thrown light on the how to measure and what impacts can be created by giving some examples. So the entire forum is open for the question and answer. So any of you can ask question. There are a lot of hands are raised. I think we can reach out to this lady. So anybody can, give mic. Yeah, I think we will open question for 2 questions only, so that audience can be, satisfied. They are listening to us since long. Just 5 more minutes. Yeah, you have to be very, very, specific to the question. Yeah, 2 lines. Okay, thank you.
So you mentioned about measuring impact and the importance of having the impact measurement plan before you even launch the intervention full scale. What budget, what proportion of budget, your program budget, would you want to give for measurement? Because most often NGOs don't want to measure because it's cutting into their program budget, and then it sort of falls in between funder wants to measure, etc. So what proportion of budget would you advise that programs need to budget in for measuring impact?
You are asking to me or to Purvash?
Whoever. He
So
spoke the most about
I
it.
can
Yeah,
give,
yeah,
see,
yeah.
impact if the program is, formulated for long-term project. So impact budget for impact assessment is already there. And the government has also mandated, and it is well written. For as far as, things can vary from the, project to project. But normally we keep 2 to 3% cost towards the impact assessment on the, gauging the entire impact, what kind of, final destination we have reached out to. We also create case study, like you have just seen at the opening. Dr. Abhishek has, during the opening remarks, he has already said. So,
my only submission is that it's too less, because it helps you to audit.
2% of the 2% of, let's say, 1 crore, because 1 crore, 2% is
Yeah,
not less.
data collection is a costly exercise.
Sorry?
Data collection
See,
is a costly exercise.
data collection, ma'am, because this entire discussion will go long. We can discuss. See, data collection is done during the course of implementation. So all the data is with you. Only thing, how you are collating the data and how you are representing that, and really the impact based on the qualitative and quantitative analysis. What kind of impact is coming? Whether we are able to reach to the destination or not. So that is there. I mean, 2%, 3% is not a less amount as far as the impact is concerned.
Sure, sir, we can have
Yeah, we can. This is the last question, and then you can ask question to any of the panelists outside the hall also.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just wanted to have some thoughts on this particular aspect that we have been seeing over the last 2 days, that the funding either contributing towards urban projects or rural projects. There is a lot of friction points that come when we are working in the urban area. So to Dr. Abhishek and Anisha, if you would highlight, like, is that a decision making when you are deciding on which projects or what goes on when you are measuring the impact, whether the urban projects come in the picture or rural projects, how the decision making comes in? Thank you.
So you are talking about the traction between urban project and
Yes,
okay.
something like that.
Yeah, Dr. Abhishek.
Okay, so I'll tell you, it depends on the largely depends on the industry also, because there are industries which have a captive target group to cater to, and you can't leave your house in a difficult situation and move to another situation to tackle the. Basically, if there's a fight going on outside versus yours house, what will you do? You'll first try to solve the fight in your house, right? So that's the beauty of the CSR. We have such a diverse industries. There are certain industries like Make My Trip, which have a very open area of interventions. All the banking, all the IT industries, they can do CSR. They can choose very specific projects around any theme and any location. But largely, if you see the industries who are into large manufacturing base, they have to definitely cater to the rural area first and then move to the urban. And there are instances where organizations have moved, because we also have rural and urban also in one of the Kerala location in Ingam, which is a Thiruvananthapuram port. It's a semi-urban location. There's the largest port coming up there. So it's an urban area. So whatever we do waste management there. It's an urban area intervention. So that's how the portfolio is looked at. Anisha, I want to contribute.
No, I think I completely agree. It will always, there won't be one blanket answer for this. It will always depend from industry to industry, corporate to corporate. Personally, for Make My Trip, if we talk about any of our plantation work, if we talk about our community-based tourism model that I was talking about, all those would definitely have a stronger hold on the rural side. But if I talk about waste management, then the focus comes more towards urban, because rural waste management is still very well looked after. Wet waste is, completely absorbed by themselves in the households, and, dry is very limited as well. So, yes, would really depend from industry to industry.
एक बात मैं कहना चाहूँगा before closing this. ये ऐसा एक topic था which was very deep topic and very complex topic, and I was looking at the faces of the audience, and you all people were very engaged. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much.